Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last episode of the Screen to Screen Halloween special. It is now October 31st, 2022, and we have accomplished the goal that we set out to accomplish, to watch all 13 Michael Myers Halloween movies during the month of October. So we're on the final one tonight, Halloween Ends, released just 2 weeks ago on October 14th, and thank you all so much for going on this crazy journey with me. It's been really fun watching these movies together and talking about them, and I really hope that you've enjoyed the podcast. Screen to Screen will continue. We're going to do more movies. We're going to do different video games. We're going to do all kinds of stuff on this podcast. So the fun goes on, but tonight it is the final Halloween film, the most recent, Halloween Ends. So let's check this out. If you want to watch this, it's streaming on Peacock, or you can go to the movie theater. But if you want to follow along with my commentary, you are welcome to do so as you stream it on Peacock. So I'm pushing play now, and let's get into it. My name is Justin, and this is Screen to Screen. Peacock logo, NBC, right? All right, we get some rock and roll music over top of the Universal Studios. And we hear the Haddonfield radio station, The Urge. And we hear this DJ playing some Halloween rock and roll music. The logo fades out, and then we get the Miramax logo. The Midnight Monsters. Hey goo. The Blumhouse intro logo now includes Michael Myers as well as a couple of other movies. So it's an updated logo. So that's cool. It's a cool logo. Like Blumhouse is like this like House of Horrors. So interestingly, with this film, we get blue title cards. And that's odd because they're usually orange. But for this one, they went with blue. And right from the beginning, I don't know that I've been talking about David Lynch this whole time and his influence on these movies. And I think we see it again here with this blue font. So Haddonfield, Halloween Night, 2019. It's a great opening shot of a sort of a street in Haddonfield. Kids are out trick-or-treating. A couple years ago, 2019, right? And we see someone riding their bike up to a rather extravagant house decorated for Halloween. There's pumpkins and lights and everything's real nice. And the woman who lives in the house opens the door and Corey comes on in, and the woman's husband is playing music on the piano. Corey waves to him. He kind of ignores him. He's drinking a beer. It's Roger's company's Halloween party. Roger. So Corey has arrived at this house to babysit. Tries to give Roger some advice on the yard, and Corey's wanting to go to college to become an engineer. There's this great shot of like their house, a very American Horror Story in a lot of ways. Like the mother calls up to Jeremy, and we sort of get this shot of like from down below up through the staircase, and then Jeremy jump scares the mom with a werewolf mask on and runs away. And the mom sort of plays with him for a second. And then so everybody's just kind of having fun. They're goofing around. You know, it's your typical Halloween babysitter setup here, right? And so the mom sort of brings Corey out, and so they're putting out the candy and they're getting ready. The mom writes down some important numbers. So the mom lets Corey know that because of this sort of story of Michael Myers in the town of Haddonfield, Jeremy's afraid of the dark, and so he's been a little freaked out he hears voices, you know, really sensitive to stuff. And this is a great shot of them in the mirror. No TV, no more candy. And then bedtime at 8:45. The dad, Roger, kind of looks like David Schwimmer. It's Halloween. We're going to have a good time tonight. All right, so we get a film within a film, some gross horror movie. I don't know what one that is, but Jeffrey is clearly like grossed out by it. Corey's 21 years old. He's scared. So he starts talking about Michael Myers and the boogeyman's going to get you. So Jeffrey makes a good point. Michael Myers kills babysitters, not kids. And this movie is horrible. There's like a guy's head like ripping off. So Corey wants to play hide and seek with Jeffrey, and they're just sort of like, I don't know, Jeffrey's saying some mean things, and they're kind of like, you know, it's kind of messed up. So they kind of have a little argument. Jeffrey is clearly like not into this whole babysitting thing, and so Corey goes into the kitchen, and the kitchen's real like pleasant, and there's like a cutting board with some banana bread there, and Corey goes into the fridge and he sees some Heinekens, but he looks at it for a second. And he thinks about it, and he's like, nah, I'm on the clock. I should probably just stick with some chocolate milk, you know, Boy Scout. He's going to have some chocolate milk. You know, he's got his ring on, you know, he's going to be an engineering student. He's like, oh, yeah, some yummy bread. As he goes to cut the bread, he hears sort of a thud noise, and he leaves the knife, and the camera kind of lingers there on the knife for a second. And then when Corey returns, the lamp has been knocked over, and he can't find Jeremy. And he hears a door open somewhere in the house, and it's the front door, and it's just open now. Corey kind of stands there. There's a shadow, and we see a shadow move in the background, just a slight little shadow in the background. Front door is open. Corey kind of makes his way. It's a good shot. I really like the lighting here. I comment about the lighting constantly on these commentaries, but like in the back of the frame, there's this like sort of fog light going on, but then it's really the little like glow of the Halloween lights is a really nice image. So Corey's just looking all over for Jeremy, under the bed, in the closet, upstairs, downstairs. He can't find him, and he kind of hears another door slam. He's starting to get annoyed now. He goes back to the kitchen, and there's another shadow that kind of moves across the background. The knife is gone now. Corey notices that the knife is gone. And we hear Jeremy upstairs screaming, "Help, help, help." So Corey makes his way upstairs. There's a very subtle like sound of like kind of wind in the background. And we can see that Corey is sort of like visibly a little bit freaked out now. Like he doesn't really like what's going on here. And he makes his way all the way up to like the third floor. And he finds the knife sitting there on the stairs, and he kind of grabs it. He doesn't really know what's going on. He thinks there's an intruder maybe, or he's not sure. And so he kind of makes his way up here and checks one of the attic rooms, and it's just kind of an old attic, and there's a bunch of stuff in there. It's dark. And he's already creeping through looking for Jeremy. Excuse me. And the door of the attic slams shut behind him. And it's Jeremy like giving him a hard time. And then as he's struggling with the door, the parents pull up, returning from their night out, and they park the car. So Corey is like struggling with the door. He's getting more and more and more angry. Jeremy's taunting him and sort of saying he's scared. And he doesn't like it. Corey's starting to like kind of lose it a little bit. He's like, let me out. He's banging on the door. And this is well edited. The parents are making their way in the house. He's banging on the door. This is all happening at the same time. We're seeing both of these things sort of together. He starts kicking the door. Corey's just kicking it as hard as he can. Kick. The parents come in and they hear him say, I'm going to kill you, Jeremy. Oh my God. And it's just brutal. So he kicks the door as Jeremy opens the door, and Jeremy goes flying off of the balcony just as the parents come in, and they see him fall and just die instantly. And then there's Corey holding this kitchen knife upstairs above him, and the parents look up, and then Halloween ends. Intense opening. Like, what a horrifying image. All right. Again, the blue letters is weird. It's an interesting choice, and we get a faraway pumpkin. It's very menacing this time, though. The pumpkin is not like a normal pumpkin, and it kind of rips open, and another pumpkin emerges from inside of it. Looks more like the classic pumpkin from Halloween. We hear the theme music playing here as well, and this pumpkin rips apart, and then another one kind of comes out. It looks kind of like Jack Skellington, and it's kind of getting closer and closer to the screen. It's kind of a slow zoom. And we sort of see these pumpkins like emerging from somewhere, sort of almost like birthing out of themselves. It's a really cool kind of another cool take on the openings. I really love what they do with the pumpkins in the openings. It kind of rips apart. Now there's this sort of creepy smile. And we can kind of see the next one coming through the hole in the nose of the pumpkin. It's really cool. And then this one pops out, and it's just a pumpkin with no face. It's just a normal pumpkin that kind of centers on the frame. And then it too splits apart, but this time when it splits open, it's just sinews and blood and guts and tendons and grossness. And we kind of zoom into this innards of this gross pumpkin. And yeah. And then we get a great shot of Haddonfield. I think it's like the exact shot from the original film. And we hear Laurie Strode sort of narrating, and we're getting some scenes from the original film, and one of my favorite shots of the whole series of Michael across the street. So good. So we're getting some rehashing of the original, the sewing needle stab in the neck moment, all sorts of stuff. Some stuff from the original Halloween remake, the one we just, the first part of this trilogy, as Laurie kind of narrates what's going on, bringing us up to speed. So she's kind of given us the story so far, sort of thing. It's a quick little recap. We sort of get a quick cut of a lot of his like kills from Halloween Kills and Halloween, and we sort of see him just brutalizing everyone, and we were reminded that Karen also died, Laurie Strode's daughter. And after the events of Halloween Kills, Michael Myers vanished. You'd think they would just like go to like on a yearly trip to like Hawaii on Halloween. Michael does Hawaii. They always like end up in Haddonfield, like maybe go on a vacation for Halloween. We see Michael like swimming in the ocean. So we're seeing like other murders, and Laurie is talking about the evil and the suffering and the fear and the anxiety that Michael kind of put into the town. Took more and more victims. It wasn't he didn't have to be the one holding the knife, but his fear, his terror just like took over. and hurt so many more people. And so we see, like, you know, a couple years later, Laurie has kind of got a better life. You know, 4 years, and it's been 4 years, and she has a house, and she has a life, and she has a relationship with her granddaughter, and she's a survivor trying to share her story and find some healing. So she is writing a memoir. And she gives Allison her parents' wedding rings. And I really like Laurie's, I like the costume design on this film. I feel like Laurie's outfit is very reminiscent of the kind of thing she wore as a teenager, right? She was kind of like Terminator style in the last two movies. She's more like herself in this movie. You know, writer, English student, you know, literature student, working on her writing and let evil inside. And a little, like, they hear a smoke alarm, and she burnt her pie. She's baking a pie. She starts, like, smashing the fire alarm. Why do people always, like, kill the fire alarm? So Laurie tried to bake a pie. It didn't really work out. And so Laurie asked her if she's got a costume for the Halloween party, but she doesn't want to go alone, so. W-U-R-G. All right, now we catch up with Corey 4 years later, whose life has kind of been destroyed because of this horrible accident that wasn't really his fault. I mean, he didn't mean to murder the kid. It was an accident, but, like, still, he's sort of living with the ramifications of it. I need to look this up, but when I first watched this for the first time, I was really... I'm wondering if they shot this film, like, around Richmond, Virginia, because there's some places here that look so familiar to me. And I used to live in Richmond, and I need to look up where they shot this because... All right, so we get a shot of this auto parts junkyard. We get an early shot here of, like, this grinder thing, this, like, metal grinder thing. So Corey's working at this machine shop, this junkyard. And we hear the radio host talking about the boogeyman sitting in hibernation, but he'll be back, you know. So we hear, you know, the town, like, Michael Myers lives on, right, in the town. And that's a cool theme of these movies, you know, like what fear can do to a community. So the owner of the junkyard sort of is offering to give Corey a cool motorcycle, and, you know, this is maybe, like, the one guy that actually, like, could look past Corey's, you know, the thing that happened to him and kind of give him a chance. Ronald. You know, and he says thanks and stuff. Like, this bridge right here, I swear, like, I feel like I know this bridge, like, from living in Richmond. It just, and there's a Huddle House right there too, and I know they have those in Richmond, and I don't know. I really need, like, this right here. I feel like I've been on this bridge, but I might be totally off. But all right, so this officer Doug pulls over Allison and is like, "You're under arrest for being the prettiest girl I know." Like, cringe. But he lets her know that her muffler's fallen off, and then the camera kind of pans down below this bridge, and then we see sort of like a homeless person making their way with this cart full of stuff, and he's kind of humming to himself. And as he walks away, the camera sort of pans over slowly to this sewer pipe opening thing. Very, very Pennywise the Clown, very It-ish. And then we find ourselves inside of this sewer pipe for a moment, kind of looking out. And then we cut back to the homeless person who's at a gas station now, and Corey. He kind of observes Corey for a second, and Corey goes into the convenience store, and he's trying to decide what he wants to buy, and he goes for the chocolate milk. And then some really top-notch teenagers pull up in one kid's like convertible, and they're trying to get some beer. They're like the band kids, which is interesting because like usually the band kids aren't like troped or stereotyped as like the bullies. They're the ones that get bullied. But like in this movie, the band kids are the bullies, which is kind of interesting. They're seniors and like they're trying to get Corey to buy them some beer. And Corey says no, and they sort of recognize him as the person that psycho babysitter, but he's really not that. I mean, right? And Corey just starts to get really angry, and he gets so angry that he sort of squeezes the glass chocolate milk bottle and cuts his hand pretty bad. So Laurie Strode happens to be getting gas, and she defends Corey. And they make fun of her as well, because her reputation follows her, right? As like Michael Myers, Laurie Strode. And she pulls out her like switchblade and is like, let's puncture their tires. So, Laurie, maybe not the best, not the best role model, perhaps. So she gives Corey a ride to the hospital, and Allison happens to be there, and she works at the hospital. This doctor's, I don't know. There's a trend in some of these movies where they, I don't like it when they sort of put in like an obnoxious character. They put in a character that you don't like, and they do things that are really bad. And like this doctor is kind of an asshole, right? And like they put this character in, and then if potentially he gets killed by Michael Myers, you're like, oh, good, I'm glad he got what he deserved. I don't like that very much. I don't want to. I'd rather have Michael just killing people with no rhyme or reason, which we get some of, but I think it's better to not like feel empathy for the killer, or be on the killer's side. So anyway, so now we have Allison and Corey together, and they start to like talk and kind of connect a little bit. And Allison is sort of cleaning up the wound, and they're talking about her car, and super cinchy, he says. Why can't the bicycle stand on its own? Because it was too tired. Get it? 2 tires. Good one, Allison. It's a good joke. He says he has a motorcycle, and Allison she asks him to teach her how to ride it. And he's like, oh, yeah, all right. Right? Like, women dig motorcycles, I guess, right? And we see the tower. So we've seen this radio tower before, and I think it's an interesting image. Like, we keep seeing it in these movies, and I don't know. It again reminds me of David Lynch and, like, electricity and fear and sort of fear antennas, right? Antennas, the electrical towers, they are things that carry fear, like in a metaphorical way, right? They deliver the fear. I don't know. So Allison's back home with Lindsay and with Laurie, and Lindsay is doing some tarot readings here, which is really cool because I'm really into tarot cards. So that's really neat that they kind of did that. Then she got the death card. I'm glad that they kind of give an accurate reading of the death card there about change and, you know. Laurie's great. I think Jamie Lee Curtis is like, I feel like, is she playing Laurie Strode at this point, or is she just playing Jamie Lee Curtis? It's hard to say. She's just like, it's a great line right there. So they're having some pasta at home, and the Corey's parents, or I don't know who these folks, I don't know who they are really. They don't feel like his parents, but they're not very nice to him. They're pretty, like, especially the mother is pretty abusive. A lot of, like, boys who keep secrets don't get custard for dessert when he won't show her his text messages. And Ronald's like, don't tell her about the motorcycle. All right, so now Corey's riding his motorcycle. He's got his little mechanic suit on, and he's, you know, riding around, super cool on his bike, on his hog. And Allison shows up with the car for the muffler fix. And so she drops off the car, and Eric's Corey on his bike, and Allison's like, yeah. She's just kind of into him, like, immediately. It's interesting too, like, to have the characters be like 4 years older now, so like they were in high school in the last one, right? And now they're more adult, you know. But we still have that generational thing, right? We've got we've got Laurie, who's essentially a grandmom, right? We've got young adults, and then we've also got these sort of high school seniors who are kind of jerks, right? Another abusive parent, another bad parent, right? There's a lot of bad parents in this movie, which I think speaks to the theme, right, of like the way the culture and society sort of goes down, right? Everyone's angry, everyone's anxious, everyone's pissed off, everyone's tired, everyone's out of money, everyone, you know, everything is just like stacking, and you can just see it in the movie. Except for police officer Frank here. Frank likes to mix meats and make croquettes. So Frank says he likes Laurie's hair, and it's blonde, like it was kind of white in the last one. All right, so Frank and Laurie just kind of chat a little bit and he feels like he won an extra life. So Frank's playing the guitar, and he's learning Japanese, and, you know, he's kind of living his life. And happy. He's actually happy that he kind of was allowed to survive. And so they're kind of talking about the book, and they're just kind of like, so we sort of see Corey and Allison kind of striking up a relationship, and then we sort of see Frank and Laurie kind of striking up a relationship. People trying to move on, right? They're trying to move on, but they can't. Corey Cunningham. So Frank says he's a good kid that had a tough break. And Laurie says, I like your face. Oh, and they both like seeing each other. It's cute. Oh. Frank. And there's a big bin of pumpkins out front, and Laurie's all smiles because she's happy with, and then this person sees her and kind of accosts her and says, what are you smiling about? Oh, and it's the woman from the last movie with the drone who Michael Myers stabbed in the throat with that halogen lamp. The woman that lived next door to Laurie Strode's compound. And they're mad at her, right? You provoked him. You called him out. You brought him here, and they're mad. They're mad at her. And again, this is the fallout. This is the collateral damage of this trauma. This 50-year-long trauma. So Frank kind of asks Laurie if they want to maybe go on like a little date kind of thing, and Laurie doesn't really respond. And then we cut to nighttime. And they're talking about some crazy conspiracy theories. But Allison and Corey are on their way to this Halloween party. You always got to have a Halloween party, right? There's always a Halloween party going on Halloween. Looks fun. They're at the local bar. Is this Rabbit in Red again? Or is this the bar from the last movie? I forget what it was called. I don't think it is. And Allison's friend from the hospital is there in a devil costume. And Corey's wearing this weird scarecrow mask. And Allison says, get us a drink. And she's, having fun. And Corey bumps into somebody and... Oh, God, that guy's costume is horrible. And Lindsay is working the bar. She's got her tarot cards. And it looks like she put the four of wands on her friend's head. But yeah, weird. So just character development, it's good. They're kind of building up the relationship between Allison and Corey, and they start to have their drinks, and they're going to kind of have a fun night. And the drinks keep coming, and now they're dancing and having fun, and Allison's really going for it. She's just letting loose. Can't blame her, right? She's been through some shit. Corey's been through some shit too, and he's dancing too. A lot of strobe lighting. And then they're in the photo booth, right? Doing the photo booth thing. They seem to be having a good time. Yeah, they're having fun. They got photobombed. Yeah, Corey's getting naked. He's taking his sweater off. And he's yeah, I'm going to dance without my sweater. And he's just headbanging and stuff. I'm not sure what they're doing. He throws his sweater and the mask on the pool table. And they're just kind of like gyrating. And then Corey's like on the ground on his knees. He's like dancing on the ground. And it's a cool shot though of Allison kind of like above him. And now he's like he's like laying fully on the ground. And Allison's just like dancing, doing weird stuff with her hands. It's kind of a cool shot. I don't know. It feels like, a moment of like relief, of catharsis that maybe they both needed a little bit, right? Like everybody needs a little catharsis every now and again. And so Corey takes a little break and he goes over to the bar, and Jeffrey's mom is there, the mom of the kid that he accidentally murdered. And he's like, oh shit. And she says, you're just here dancing, having a good time. And he says, sorry. It's a good shot here too of like over his shoulder. He's kind of in the front of the frame, kind of blurred. It's good direction. And the mom just doesn't, the mom thinks he really is like a serial killer murderer, and she knows it was no accident. And she's like, you think you can just come here and have a good time without your mask? And she's just screaming at him. And this is like the life he has now, right? Where he can't go anywhere. He's kind of this a pariah, right? That like nobody wants to be a part of. So Allison chases him outside. Corey almost gets hit by a car as he's running. He's just running away, and Corey's mad. And they're having an argument here. And they both kind of have this same trauma, right? People don't know you, right? They think they know you, but they don't know you. Allison just saw a person trying to figure it out. So like Corey mentions this interesting sort of perception, right? Allison's the hero who survived Michael Myers, the survivor. Corey's the kid killer, the psychopath babysitter that murdered a child, right? So they have this sort of difference of perception. And her fingers, I don't know, it's the fingers. All right, so Corey is now walking home, and he's walking home on this bridge that Allison got stopped at earlier, and there's a sign for a missing person, last seen last October. And these band kids find him and accost him once more. So the main bully wants to apologize. And Corey's like, nah. And he just walks off, and they trip him, and they break his glasses. Yes, I love Baron. Corey brandishes a knife, and he tells them all to get back. And the kid knocks the knife out of his hand with his drumstick that he's flipping around on constantly. So Corey kind of confronts him about his father hating him and his father treating him like garbage, and the kids start kind of beating him up, and they start like messing with him, and then they throw him over the side of the bridge. They throw him down, and he's kind of takes a pretty bad fall. This guy's like a very like New Jersey. I didn't push nobody. He fell. It's my story. Oh, little prick deserved it, Tony Soprano. So we literally actually see Michael Myers right here in this shot, just for a second. And then Corey's body gets dragged. And the homeless man from earlier kind of turns around and witnesses Corey's body sort of being dragged into this sewer hole. It's creepy. Meanwhile, Allison is back home and she's angry at the microwave. I get that. Let me be mad. Why can't I be mad? Man, I deal with that with my 8-year-old all the time. Be careful, because being mad is addictive. She's right. And she sees the photos from the photo booth. Oh, and her pot pie explodes in the microwave. Meanwhile, Corey is down in the sewers with the rats, and he's woken up, and he's like, oh man, what's going on? He's not having a great night. He's kind of injured from his fall off the bridge, and he's now in some damn sewer. He's like, how did I end up in a friggin' sewer? Moonlight, shafts of light sort of coming in through the place. I feel like this actor has a little bit of a Bruce Campbell look to him. I don't know why. It just reminds me of Ash a little bit sometimes, the way his jaw, I guess, is. But so he tries to make his way out of the sewer, and he hears a noise and kind of turns, and then a hand grabs him by the throat. This is a weird moment. So he's Michael Myers is like in a crack in the wall for some reason, even though he just dragged him into the sewer. But he grabbed him and he sort of stares him down for a moment. And it's almost like he kills him. Is he like he brings him right to the brink of death and then tilts his head a little bit. And then they sort of, I don't know, their eyes connect somehow. And there's this like moment of transference, I suppose you could say. I don't know what it really is. But then Myers lets him go. And we get a cool shot of Corey like silhouetted in front of the sewer tube, and the camera is sort of spinning clockwise slowly, which is an interesting shot. And he kind of is spewed out of the sewer, really shaken by what just happened. And he's not sure what happened. And I swear that McDonald's, I feel like there's a McDonald's in the background, and I feel like I've seen that before. And he kind of peers back into the sewer that he just escaped from, and we sort of see there's like a kind of a room in there. And then the homeless man tells him that man in there takes people in now and then. So he says, I'm Michael Myers. The homeless man says, I'm Michael Myers. And he wants the mask. Go back in there and get me that mask. And they struggle for a moment. Corey stabs him with his own knife, the knife that he dropped earlier, the night before. Oh, so his first murder. He just murdered that guy. He just throws the knife like it's really gonna just disappear into the ether, and leaves the body and runs away. He makes his way home, and his mom, or the woman that lives there, is yelling at him and just pushing him around and angry, and he locks himself in the bathroom, and he's all covered in blood, and he just doesn't know what to do. He's very, he's like, what's happening to me? He's clearly struggling, and he strips down and he's like looking at his face in the mirror. Another mirror shot, right? We saw him in the mirror in the opening scene too, right? And he looks at the wound on his hand and looks at himself in the mirror, and I don't know, like, who am I? Maybe he's confused. And then we see Allison, and she did not get her a promotion because her friend that works with her basically is sleeping with the doctor because they're both awful. And she got the promotion over Allison because of that, I suppose, is the implication there. But yeah, it's a lot of bad stuff in life. I love Laurie's little writing room she's got some pumpkins and she's got a desk and she's typing and writing her book. Am I in control, or do the elements control me? So this is, if you know, this is this theme going back to the original film, right? Of like fate versus free will that Laurie is listening to in her high school classroom. So now we have Laurie up in the window and she kind of looks down and she sees Corey standing in the bushes in a very similar Michael Myers kind of way. And I don't know, Laurie just immediately is just like sort of fearful. She's sort of stricken by something. She can't quite put her finger on it, but like, something about him and the way he's sort of standing there scares her, makes her skin crawl, makes the hair stand up. And then he pops out from behind her. So Corey kind of tells her that he got beat up by those gas station kids, and Laurie says, "I'm sorry." You know, another collateral damage of Laurie's actions, I guess, right? And he just wants Allison to take a walk with him, and he wants to apologize. So they go off, and Laurie kind of just sort of looks him in the eye for a second. And I don't know, she's like got her hand on her chest. She's like concerned. Something about doesn't seem right. It's a cool shot. I like the way that shot's framed. I don't know what you call that shot, but I like it. Maybe like a mid-range shot. It's cool. So Corey tells her that he killed someone, and Allison doesn't really say anything, and he asks her for her hand, and she puts her hand in his hand, and I don't know, she's attracted somehow to this. Like, she's attracted to the darkness a little bit, you know? It's interesting with her. You know, it's an interesting sort of arc for her character, to be sort of drawn to the darkness in the way that she is. I think we saw a flash of that too, and when she sort of held the knife at the end of Halloween. But now they make their way back to the house where the kid died, and Corey is telling Allison the story of what happened that night 4 years ago. And this house is empty now, abandoned. It's a cool shot of Allison's shadow on the wall. It is an interesting parallel story though, right? Like, Michael Myers kills his sister, Corey kills his, babysitting kid, and then continues to return to the house where that tragedy happened, right? Drawn to it somehow. I think that's an important parallel between the characters of Corey and Michael Myers. And we get this cool upward spinny shot. And Allison just feels connected to Corey. And so Laurie goes and talks to Corey's mom, I guess. And she's a pretty, conservative, overprotective kind of angry person, and Laurie's just trying to like get some information. So this mother is blaming Laurie because the town turned against Corey, and because Michael Myers disappeared, her boogeyman, the town needed a new boogeyman, and they Corey became the new boogeyman. So like, you know, metaphorically there, and then like literally a little bit later, I guess. So now they're at a diner. Allison and Corey are at a diner having dinner, having a few beers. Corey's got some thoughts about Laurie's attitude. They got some big fries though. So Corey just kind of seems different now. He seems a little more confident. He's not wearing his glasses. He's not as timid. And then here's Doug. Here's Doug the cop. It's Joe Grillo. Joe Grillo's birthday. Joe Ross and Joe Grillo, everyone's name is Joe, and he invites Allison to go and get a slice of sponge cake. And Corey starts getting pissed. The cop keeps pressing Allison, and Corey's like, she said, we're good. And he kind of yells at him. And Corey's kind of like, you can just see the anger bubbling, and the cop says, like, you got a problem, kid? So Corey jumps up and kind of gets right in Doug's face. He kind of just gives him this stare, and he's starting to have this effect on people, right? Like, Allison feels it too. Doug feels it. They all feel it. And he kind of like backs away, and he backs down, and Corey kind of like, I don't know. I also like this scene of like these like middle-aged white dudes with like their birthday party balloons and party bags. Like it's, I don't know, it's an interesting, it's like you don't often see like that middle-aged. All right, so I like, this is my favorite part of the movie. I'll light the match. They want to burn it down. And Corey's like, I'll light the match. And then they drive off into the night on Corey's motorcycle with this really edgy music playing. I don't know. The mood of that scene is perfect to me. I love it. I wish there was more of that in this. It feels very edgy, like driving off into the shadows, into the darkness, what's on the other side, what's in the dark, what's out there, let's just find out. Right. And they start kissing, and Corey says another night. Allison kind of bites his nose, and then runs home into the house. So she's into it. She's into him. She likes it. She likes the edginess. And someone in a car is observing Corey and begins to follow him. And again, I love all this stuff. Like this night driving on the motorcycle stuff is great. That shot of them just like going down the road with the street lights and the nighttimeness, it's great. So Corey kind of returns to the sewer, and I don't know. I like that scene a lot. That music is perfect too. And it's Doug, the cop, who has followed Corey from the restaurant to the sewer. Under the bridge, like a troll. Doug turns on his flashlight, and he's kind of investigating the scene, and he makes sure to avoid shining the light directly into the camera that's videoing him at the moment. he observes the bike and kind of walks around, and he's kind of looking for Corey, and I like the little rain flecks in the light there. And he sees this tent, and there's kind of a light on in the tent, and he kind of hides his own light, puts it on the ground, makes his way over to the tent. What's he gonna find in the tent? No one knows. Nobody knows what's in there. Oh, and it's the dead guy. He kind of drops it out of the tent, and then Corey attacks Doug with his jacket and sort of strangles him, wrestles him to the ground. Oh, Doug gets in a good wallop to the face, and Corey laughs and runs off. He like retreats into the sewer pipe. And you hear him like kind of laughing in there. So Doug follows him in. You don't fuck with Doug Delaney or whatever his name is. That's a good line. It's funny. Oh, so now Doug's in the sewer, and he's, I don't know. It's a little. I don't know about the sewer choice, but I'm not a fan of the sewer. But he had to hide Michael Myers somewhere, right? I guess. So there's sounds. There's, it's a scary kind of dark place, and there's lots of shadows. And Doug's just looking for Corey in the shadows and stuff. But we also all know who's in here, and we actually see him we see him in the dark right there. And Doug's like, "What the hell? What's all this?" And then we see Corey just sort of standing there, creepy. And he kind of smirks. And then Michael Myers attacks Doug. And I don't know, it's weird. Michael Myers is clearly not at full strength in this. He's weakened for sure after, I guess, he got completely obliterated by the town at the end of the last movie. And Corey's like, "Show me how to do it. Get up. Show me how to do this." I don't know. It's a weird conceit in this film, right? He has the knife just hidden in this rock. We hear the Halloween music come up, and Corey holds Doug so Michael Myers can kill him. And Myers sort of stabs him pretty hard. And he falls, and he's on top of Corey's body, and it's almost this weird ritual of initiation or rite of passage kind of moment where Myers is he's barely able to even do what he does, but he murders Doug, and he kind of quivers for a weird moment here. He's just sort of quivering, almost I don't know. There's some sexual undertones here too. It's interesting. Watching this a second time. It's almost like he's regaining some of his strength by killing. And Laurie alluded to that last time, right? The more he kills, the more he transcends. And it looks like he's kind of more, I don't know, in line now. And he's kind of breathing heavily, and Corey kind of I don't know, it's weird. There's these new rules that they establish in this movie that are odd. And so Corey comes back to Allison's house, and he's like, "I don't know what's happening to me." And he pushes her up against the door frame, and he's acting all weird. And Allison's trying to talk to him he asks her if Michael Myers let her live or if she escaped. Makes this weird, right? Michael Myers doesn't just let people live, right? It's a weird, kind of a new rule. And Allison doesn't answer that question, but she looks at his wounds and says, "Does it hurt?" And she says, "My mother saved me." And then Laurie returns home and sees Allison and Corey kind of making their way up the stairs in a very intimate way. And Michael Myers is there watching Laurie. And he walks off, and Laurie kind of looks in his direction and, I don't know, dismisses her intuition a bit. So I guess Corey and Allison have sex, and now it's the next morning, and they're laying in bed together. And Corey sees the scarecrow mask from the Halloween party. And he takes it. So Allison's friend Deb is kind of gossiping about her relationship with Corey. Deb reminds me of like an animated character, her like the way her mouth looks. And then this douchebag doctor comes in and doesn't even acknowledge that Allison's a human being or a person, just flicks some files at her like she's nothing while he's talking about his fantasy football team, and she slams him down, getting more and more pissed. Okay, so Laurie's talking to Lindsay at the bar, and she's like, I saw Michael Myers' eyes in Corey. So Lindsay just knows. Laurie just kind of knows. So now we see Roger, the father of the kid that Corey killed by accident. And he's telling Laurie like the story of what happened. And he's talking about like Roger says they took his pain and they made it about them by labeling Corey as this monster. So Roger says it's not him. He sort of saw Corey walking down the street that day, and he was going to say something to him, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. So he's affirming Laurie's suspicions that something's wrong with that kid. So the guy on the side of the road is down a dark path. And he like, we don't need that last line, I don't think, as the audience, right? But it's in there. Did the town do this to him after the incident, or was it always there? Right? Like I think we're smart enough as an audience to ponder that question. But sometimes the movie feels like it has to hand us stuff. Oh, so there's an Alexa device in the doctor's house, and him and Deb are like at his house, and he's just like, I don't know. I think this is a bit of a stereotype. This guy's just like super wealthy. He works at like the Haddonfield Clinic. All right, so Deb's gonna go take a shower, and Dr. Douchebag is gonna meet her in there, and oh God, he's so mouths. The people's mouths in this movie are like interesting. I'm always curious how like the people are cast just purely based on the shape of their lips and mouth and stuff. So there's like a present waiting for Deb in the bedroom, like a box, and a little note that says, "Congratulations on the promotion." Ugh. And inside the box is a severed head. No, I'm kidding. It's like a nice silk robe type of thing. And he's got like a fire pit on his little deck with his pool and stuff. And he's got it all set up. He's got some cheeses and some meats and stuff. And Deb turns on the shower. She hears a noise. Dr. Mathis, what's wrong? She hears some thuds, and the music stops. Dr. Mathis? This is a very Scream-esque scene with like the big open glass doors to the outside pool area. What a classic moment in Scream, right? When Drew Barrymore is like looking out the porch window. So Deb makes her way out into the pool area, looking for Dr. Mathis. Dr. Mathis, where are you? Paging Dr. Mathis. And she goes over to the fire pit and sees all the stuff is like thrown on the ground. And there's a big mess. She's like, what's happened here? And she turns on the lights, and just there in the shadows is someone wearing the scarecrow mask, like murdering Dr. Mathis in the face, like just stabbing him over and over again. It's obviously Corey. She slams his injured hand in the door, and he can't get in. He's banging on the door. And Deb runs through the house. And she grabs her phone as Corey's trying to get in, and he kind of stands there for a second looking at her. And then Michael Myers appears behind Deb. So they're working, and he just kind of grabs her and with his inhuman strength, like drags her across the room and lifts her up the wall. And Corey takes off his bandage on his hand for some reason. And he kind of looks, he considers his hand for a second. He studies it and kind of flexes it and feels it like as though, I don't know, as though he's feeling what Michael Myers is doing or something. And then Myers sort of stabs her and up against the wall in his classic kind of kill up against the wall thing. And I don't know. It's like, it's an interesting idea, but I think it's like, is it too late for these ideas? I don't know. It's weird, right? Like Michael Myers has like a buddy now. He has like a friend that he kills with. It's weird, right? Like he has like a protege, I don't know. And here we have another scene of Corey and Allison on the motorcycle just driving through the night. It's awesome. It's like dark and edgy, and I really like the vibe of these motorcycle scenes a lot. Especially with the music. It's sort of like dark synthwavey kind of music. And we just see Corey's like, oh, and then this shot right here. Sorry, the shot of the road, the highway at night. It's so Lynchian, like it's so David Lynch. It's crazy. Yeah, so the I love the road, the highway at night, and they kind of scream into the night. And we get this brilliant shot then of the radio tower. It's the biggest shot we've seen of it so far. This giant flashing red lights everywhere. Warning, 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 warning. They're literally on top of the radio tower with a giant W in red behind them. I love it. I love that shot of the tower, the red lights blaring. It's a beacon calling Corey to live his own life, but it's also a warning sign, right? Like it's a flashing red light. It's the train from the original Halloween movie, right? The railroad crossing scene. It's that again, but in a way bigger way. I don't know. I really just dig this, like the vibe of this, the mood of this. Allison looks at his scar and says the word infected. He is indeed infected. He's infected by the evil of the town, of Myers, of all of it. Like the fear. He's become infected. So this scene, this stuff is good. Like it's good. And he's going to like jump off the side of the building. He jumps off the building. But there's like a lower area. He says he's not interested in immortality. And he kind of sits, he does the Michael Myers sit up right there, which is kind of cool. And then the DJ comes out and he says it's private property. And he recognizes Corey Cunningham and kind of instigates him. And then Corey's going to go mess with him. But so this DJ is like, he's kind of intimidating both of them a little bit. Willie. Once Willie gets in your ear, your favorite song's stuck in your head. And he dismisses Allison's story pretty completely by saying your grandmom goaded a guy with a mental illness. He treats him like shit, basically. And Allison's like, I'm done. I'm out. Let's do it. Let's get out of Haddonfield. Let's burn it to the ground. I want to be with you. I want to get out of here. I want to leave this all behind, right? I don't know. I like that theme of like leaving it all behind. And Laurie is watching them because she's concerned about this guy because she thinks that he's somehow connected to Michael Myers. And Corey sees Laurie. And then his mom is yelling at him when he gets home. She's just like, this is a very Lynchian scene to me. Domestic violence, abuse, trauma in the home. She literally smacks him in the face and then kisses him on the lips. Meanwhile, his dad or whoever this person, this man is that gave him the motorcycle that works at the junkyard, he's just sitting in a chair observing this underneath a red lamp and just says, I hope you find love. That is such a David Lynch style scene right there. It's wild to me. Like I have to believe that the director of this movie was influenced a little bit by Lynch. So now we see the blue letters, October 31st. Corey has spent the night sleeping in the house where the kid got killed that he was babysitting. He's literally sleeping on the bloodstain. And he's awoken by the sound of a chair kind of banging against the window. And it's Laurie. And she's there waiting for him to wake up. And she says, nice to see you. And she gives him a speech about two kinds of evil. One is external, and the other is inside, like a sickness or an infection. The second one's more dangerous. But this theme of like evil infecting is new, right? Is it though? Is it new? Or is it just different, right? I think this was the theme of the original film too, right? It's like, how does evil infect the town? How does it infect the culture? How does it infect everybody in the scene, right? Fear, evil. Laurie wants to help Corey. You brought me in. You invited me. Like a vampire, you're the one to blame. And he says, do you want to do it or you want me to? Ugh, if I can't have her, no one will. Ugh, F that line. Not a fan. Interesting shot of you should give in. He tells her to give in, to surrender to the feeling. And he says, You secretly hope Michael comes back for you. Psycho and the Freak Show. But Laurie's gone. She's had enough. She's not even listening to him anymore. But she's confirmed her suspicions that he's somehow connected to Michael Myers, and that's why she was there in the first place, right? So he kind of played his hand a little bit. And he dings a key on the piano. And smashes it with the firebrand. All right, then he's off on his motorcycle again. And he calls Allison and he's like, we need to leave. Let's get out of here now. He's like really talking, really like, meet me at the diner. Your grandmother wants to kill me. Yeah. I don't know, Corey's being a little weird on the phone. But back to the sewer one last time. And he's like, you got something I need. And he kind of assaults Michael Myers, and they kind of struggle for a second. And it's kind of neat, them sort of fighting, and Corey's trying to they kind of slide around a little bit. It's cool. It's a cool shot of them. Like, I like the way it's framed. The camera just stays put. And Corey says, you're just a man in a Halloween mask. And he just steals his mask. He just takes his mask. Takes the mask. Don't take the mask. That's the worst thing you can do. And then he leaves Michael Myers just laying there. And we get the sit up and the head turn. Maskless this time. All right, now it's the evening of Halloween night, and kids are out trick-or-treating. And the band bullies are back at the gas station getting some supplies, and somebody has carved the word psycho into the hood of his car. And there's Corey, and he's sort of provoked them, and now they're going to chase him. And that's all part of his plan, I guess. And so Allison's getting ready. Meanwhile, Allison's getting ready to hook up with Corey and get out of Haddonfield for good. And she's leaving everything behind. And but Laurie's up there waiting for her. and Laurie's trying to tell her that she feels like Corey is capable of real harm. Inkling. So it's the same conversation, right? Like, Laurie's trying to protect Allison. She's trying to convince her that Michael Myers is real, and Allison is getting mad at her. You're obsessed with death, right? The death card from earlier. It's on a dark path. It's kind of a funny scene. She slams the door in her face and then opens it again. I don't know. It's kind of weird. And I love how so we cut, and Corey's dad is watching the Van Damme film Hard Target, which I just happened to recognize because I used to love that movie when I was a kid. So he's got his headphones on and he's watching Hard Target on his computer in his office at the junkyard, which is where Corey has brought the band bullies. And, now Corey is sort of the Michael Myers proxy at this point, right? He's got the mask. He's got a plan to murder some people. The gate closes, the fence closes, and the band kids are kind of calling Corey out, trying to get him to come out so they can get him. So what's this guy's name? I forget this guy's name. But he has an idea. They're going to chain up Corey's bike motorcycle to their car. They're going to tie it to the back of the car and we're going to drag it around. Yeah. Dusty ass bike. Oh my God. Mr. New Jersey. Let's go. Let's go, Billy. So Billy went to start the car. And he's like, come on, Billy, let's go. Billy's the guy with the drumsticks, right? Remember with the mullet? Oh. And Billy has a drumstick stuffed in his eyeball. Brutal. Billy's dead. Oh. And then this truck turns on. The headlights. Stacy starts running off. The truck is about to bear down on these teens. It's kind of a classic horror movie stuff, but they can't get out. The fence is locked. And the truck is just sort of driving at them. They make it over the fence, but the truck rams the one on and pins her under the fence. Meanwhile, Van Damme is shooting his handgun upside down in hard target. And Corey's dad sees the kid out the window. He's screaming, help, help, help. So the one kid is under the truck, under the fence. She's still alive, but she's brutally hurt and stuck under this fence under the truck. And then Corey gets out of the truck with a giant wrench, wearing his mechanic's outfit, and he smashes the other kid with the wrench. We don't see that, but it's implied. And then Corey's dad goes out. He gives the other kid a shotgun. He's like, here, take this shotgun. And then the dad goes out. Right, the guy that was like, I hope you find love earlier. He's like, what's going on here? He's like, his pickup truck is his tow truck is parked out in the fence somewhere. And he looks over, he sees Corey, and Corey's holding the mask, almost like it's a head, and he puts the mask on. And the dad stands up just as the kid shoots the rifle at Corey, and the kid shoots Corey's dad in the head and kills him. And then all the other kids are just murdered at this point. So he sort of saved Corey, I guess, but he ended up, so this kid's a murderer now too, and everyone's getting murdered, and Margot's under the fence, and she's about to die. She's not doing well, and Stacy's dead, and Billy's dead. Everybody's dead. She says, you're dead too. And now Corey's full blast, he is Michael Myers. He's got the mask and everything. So it's an interesting passing of the torch kind of thing, right? Oh, and he uses the acetylene torch to the welding torch to melt the kid's face. And that's cool. And that it's like Michael Myers, but it's not, and he face stomps her, right? His classic stomps with the boot and destroys the face. It's a cool shot of the foggy night as the truck drives off. So just obliterates all those people. And then he returns home, and his abusive mother is doing her nails or something, and she thinks it's Ronald. And we get a first person view here, which is really cool. And we hear the breathing, and he goes for the knife, and he picks up the knife. And the mom sort of sees this figure, screams, and interesting. We don't see a lot of the kills in this, which is good, I think. I mean, we don't need the gruesomeness and it's. So cut back to Willie, the DJ at the radio station, and he's kind of making a lot of. He's kind of stirring up the fear and stuff, and people are mad, calling in about what he's doing. And so he plays some music, spins the record, and then Corey shows up in the Michael Myers mask to the D. Then this scene is just straight out of Twin Peaks: The Return. We've got this impossibly attractive woman at the front desk of the radio station as this murderous evil force comes into the radio station. It's literally the same scene in Twin Peaks: The Return, episode 8, when the lodge spirit comes down. And anyway, so Corey murders the woman in the front, and then he goes into the DJ booth. We see the red light flashing of the on-air light again, and he just brutally murders Willie by smashing his head. Oh, and there's more mouth stuff, and this one's something else. He breaks his jaw completely open and then literally uses scissors to cut off his tongue, and he dies in his Chinese food, and the tongue is on the record, and it's causing the record to skip as the tongue spins around, and we see a pumpkin, and then we see Michael Myers / Corey like walk behind. That's just something else. All right, so meanwhile, Allison hears the tongue spinning on the record on her radio, and she turns off the radio because she's like, what the heck? She shows up at Ronnie's Diner at 9:00 to meet Corey, right? But Corey's been out on a killing spree all night. So she sits and waits, stirring her coffee patiently. Kind of reminiscent of The Sopranos ending with the sound of the door, the bell ringing as the patrons enter the diner. And Laurie has a picture of her three friends from the first movie hanging on the wall in the kitchen, the remembrance of Annie and Annie and I can never remember the other one's name. I don't remember, but so that's cool that she has that. And she's trying to get in touch, and Laurie's trying to reach out to Allison, and she's not picking up, she's not paying attention. And Allison is texting Corey and is like wondering what's up and why he's not there and what's going on, and she wants some answers, and she's texting and stuff. And then Laurie sort of shuts down the place for the night, turns the lights off. Kind of walks through the house. It's dark and quiet. She takes a little sip of whiskey. Turns off the porch lights. A couple lights are still on, though. It's a nice little moment here, a little quiet moment where she's just sort of thinking, and she kind of makes her way up the stairs. She's got the whiskey bottle, and she looks really concerned and kind of scared. And she kind of makes her way into her writing room. The two pumpkins are there. Another mirror shot. There's lots of mirrors in this. Sort of like the question of like, who are we? What do we see when we look in the mirror? So she lights the pumpkins, pours another drink. Takes a swig. Her manuscript is sitting there on the table in front of her. She kind of leafs through it. She reaches into like a little safe next to her, unlocks it, and inside the safe is a gun, a small little snub-nosed revolver that she sets down on the table. She looks at her phone. There's a picture of Karen, her daughter, on her phone. And she says into her phone, "Yes, I'd like to report a suicide." And this is like, oh my God, like, is this the end of Laurie Strode? Is this how it ends? Is this where this ends? And, the door is slightly open. She rips the cross off of her necklace. She puts it down on the phone. She drapes her sweater over her chair, and like, oh my God, like, is this the end? Is this how Laurie wants to, like, she wants to be in control of herself instead of letting Michael Myers do this to her? And she literally lifts the gun to her temple. And we see her in this moment of intense struggle. And then she moves it down to her chin. She walks in front of the pumpkin. And then we're outside the door. and we hear a shot, and we see a splatter on the wall, and a hand open the door. And it was the pumpkin. Did you really think I'd kill myself? And it's it's Corey / Michael Myers, which one of them, waiting for her there. And she shoots him. And it's Corey. So she was ready for it, right? It was all ploy. It was all feint. And what a cool little twist, right? When the first time I watched this film, I thought that was it. I thought that was going to be the end. I was like, oh my God, they can't possibly do this to Laurie Strode. But nah. So she shoots the wall a couple of times to show him that she's out of bullets. Throws the gun. And she says, you came here to kill me, so do it. She's sort of confronting Corey. He's got the Michael Myers mask. And Allison pulls up. And Corey kind of laughs maniacally. And Corey's got the knife. Oh. And Corey stabs himself in the throat and says, if I can't have her. And then in a sort of a turn here, right, Allison walks in. She's Corey's body. Laurie's holding the knife. And she's like, no, you don't understand. But Allison's not going to understand. She says, what did you do? And Laurie is kind of, she's kind of reverted to herself from the original film. She's leaning up against the wall, kind of crying, kind of scared. Like, she was in control a moment ago, but now she's kind of lost control of the situation a bit. So Allison's kind of over Corey's body, like watching him pass away and die. And she's just so mad, like the one person that she really liked, and now he's dead. Everybody dies. Everybody that Laurie Strode is connected to dies, right? Like, and Allison screams and storms out of the front door. It's a tragic tale for Laurie Strode, right? She can't catch a break. Now it's raining, and this is great. This is like the classic like pose, right, from the original movie when she's just like leaning up against. She sits down on the floor. She picks up the gun that she threw earlier. She looks how many shots are left. None, I suppose. And she kind of sits here for a second, drops the gun. And she looks over and notices that the back door is open. And she immediately knows what's going on. And we see a hand reach for the mask and take it. And we hear footsteps in the front hallway. And the real Michael Myers grabs the knife, but Corey's still alive, and he sort of grabs his hand and tries to stop him from taking it. But he's not strong enough, and Michael Myers grabs his head. And just snaps his neck as Laurie locks the door of her house. So Corey was kind of a weird anomaly, and he's done. He's out. He's dead. And now it's just Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. And here we are at a train crossing again, right? A train crossing and the radio tower. So, my theory about the train crossing and the red lights and the warning signs is I think it's all accurate, because here we have a train crossing again, and we literally see the tower aflame now. It's on fire, and and Allison kind of realizes, oh shit, like, is this happening? And so now we have the first person view from Michael Myers' POV, and we hear the breathing, and Laurie is kind of hiding in a corner in the back closet, and there's like a little string dangling next to her. And we kind of hear the sound of the blinds wire like kind of clicking. But Laurie has put something into the microwave, and she grabs the blinds wire to make it stop clicking, and Myers is alerted to this. The microwave distracted him for a second, but he's alerted to the sound of the wire, and he kind of makes his way into this back room, slowly creeps towards the door, and Laurie's just there kind of waiting for him. And she looks over, and there's that fire extinguisher that Allison had tried to use earlier when she burnt the pie. And Laurie goes for it. As soon as the microwave goes off, it distracts him for a second. She busts out. She starts hitting him with the fire extinguisher. And now they're fighting in the kitchen. They're struggling. Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. Just classic. This is a good scene. I mean, this is a good fight scene. I mean, he puts his foot on her neck, and she's just, he just starts choking her to death, and she kicks him in the knee and stuns him for a second so she can kind of get up. And he's really just he's messing her up pretty bad. I mean, he's really throwing her around, banging her head into the fridge and stuff. The Halloween music is kind of kicked up, and she reaches for a knife. It's in the sink. She can't quite get it. Oh, and this is a nice little throwback to Halloween. I don't know which one it was, 5 or 6, where like he's trying to put her hand down at the garbage disposal, and she's sort of struggling against that. And it gets really close, but she kind of gives him a reverse headbutt, and then he throws her across the room. Oh, and there's a sewing needle. A big giant one. How cool is that, right? She grabs the sewing needle, her original weapon against Michael Myers, and she tries to stab him with it, but he stops her. And then he kind of reverses it on her and kind of stabs her in the ear with it a little, so she kind of gets stabbed in the ear. And she starts to kind of take the mask off, right? And that's sort of a thing that he can't deal with. So the second she takes the mask off, it gives her an opportunity, and she stabs him in the hand, kind of pins him to the table, but he's still fighting with her, and she throws him down on the table, and now she's on top of him, and she's got him pinned down with her legs, her whole weight of her whole body, and she stabs him in the chest, right in the heart. Doesn't matter. He's up immediately, reaching out for her. She stabs him in the other hand, hammers it down with a pan into the island, and now he's like pinned down like a butterfly on this table, and she drops the refrigerator on his leg, so like his 2 hands are pinned, his leg is pinned, and he can't do a whole lot. And she reaches in the drawer and grabs the biggest knife she can grab. And she sort of shows him his reflection in the knife, and then sort of stabs him in the armpit, like in the ribs, like in the lungs, basically, We hear like that sound of the blood coming out, like gushy blood sound. And she takes off the mask, and it's just this old burned dude, right? It's a great little speech. You're just a man who's about to stop breathing. And she just slices his neck open very slowly. And he rips his hand out of the knife, right? And starts to strangle her. And he's kind of bleeding out from the neck, and she says, "Do it." And we get all these great flashes of her from the first movie and their struggles from all these movies and all these moments of struggle between these two diametric forces. But then Allison shows up. Oh God. And his hand is just like, and she just breaks his arm. And she says, I'm not going to let this happen to you. And Laurie kind of takes Michael Myers' hand and just slices open his wrist, just almost as if they're exsanguinating him, right? Like, it's intimate and violent and bloody and visceral. It's smart. I think it's a really good moment. Like, there's an intimacy to this violence that is interesting. And we sort of see Laurie reflected in the blood pooling on the floor. And we see the mask and now the aftermath, right? Like, so Frank shows up. And there's, a scene of violence and murder like always on Halloween around here. And Frank makes his way into the kitchen, and Allison and Laurie are there, and Myers' body's on the table, and sort of a slow-mo kind of dramatic moment, and the mask is there. It's good. It's a good shot. It's a good scene. He's dead, Laurie says. And Allison says, not dead enough. So it's time for Haddonfield to start healing. I don't know. This is weird, but like they tie his body. This is not how this works, but the sheriff shows up and says it is tonight. So they tie Michael Myers' body to the top of their car, and they do this sort of like, I don't know, death parade with a police escort, and they parade his body through the town of Haddonfield to show everyone that the fear is gone. The evil is gone. It's gone from here. It really is gone from here this time, Loomis. And so they had this sort of parade of cars driving through the town of Haddonfield. And a lot of neat little like foggy slow-mo shots here. A lot of cool cinematography that I really dig. So it's interesting too, because now all we see are blue flashing lights. It's like this dichotomy of blue and red. And if you remember in an earlier scene when Laurie went to confront Corey's mother, oh, there's Julianne too. Laurie went to confront the mother, and she was wearing a sweater that was like blue in the front and red in the back. So there's this color play thing happening in this movie with like blue and red, and like maybe blue represents healing and moving on, and red represents warning, danger. And, where is Laurie in that? Which side of that dichotomy is she landing on right now? Is she finding peace? Is she finally through with this, or is it danger? So they go through the town, they bring the body of Michael Myers to the junkyard, and he like crowd surfs. They kind of collectively move his body from the top of the car towards the grinder, the junkyard grinder, metal grinder thing. Oh, and you'll notice Laurie is wearing a blue shirt in this scene too. So that color play, I think, is accurate in this movie. And it's this really cool dramatic slow-mo shot, and Laurie kind of climbs into the machine. And she stands over him with the whole town behind her. Not the whole town, but a lot of people. And Allison turns on the grinder thing, and Laurie dumps Michael Myers' body into this meat grinder, and it just gets smushed and smashed, and we just see the whole thing, and it's great, actually. It's good practical effect. And he just turns him into pulp, turns him into nothing. A midnight procession. There would be no tombstone, no memorial. the story fades with time. So Laurie finishes her book, and her and Allison reconnect. And they sort of debrief about Corey. Laurie says he was consumed by evil. Evil can consume you. The resolve of the events of Haddonfield. And Laurie and Allison hold hands for a moment and just... Michael Myers is dead, the news reports, and Laurie's at the diner again, or Allison's at the diner again, and she's sort of got her parents' rings around her neck, and her car is packed and, leaving Haddonfield city limits, so she's out of there. She's escaping. So Laurie... Evil changes shape. It doesn't die. It changes shape. That's a cool ending, right? Because the Shape is the name of Michael Myers, right? That was his original name in the script. And Laurie said goodbye to her boogeyman, right? That boogeyman. But evil doesn't go away. You can't grind it up in a meat grinder, right? Like, it just changes shape. It just transforms. It transfers. It goes somewhere else. It comes again. So Frank leaves some food on Laurie's porch and says enjoy the food, and he sort of thanks her for what she's done, and Laurie sort of comes out, asks Frank about the cherry blossoms, sort of sits down on the front stoop of her house. And Frank kind of walks over and sort of sits down next to her. And doesn't say a word. They just sort of sit there. And that's a beautiful kind of ending, or kind of moment, right? They just kind of sit in peace. And then we get some still images of Laurie's house. And we see the mask sitting in her writing room on the table. And Halloween Ends comes up, and the word Halloween fades out, leaving just for a moment the word ends. So, and Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult is playing as well at the end credits here. So we did it, folks. We totally did it. And we made it all the way to the end of all the Halloween movies. We got all the way through all 13. And it was really, really fun. I really had a great time watching these and talking about them. I thought that one was good. I mean, it's kind of gotten some mixed reviews for sure. But I thought that was an appropriate way to end that saga, right? The death of Michael Myers, the near death. Like, Laurie was ready to go, but Allison sort of saved her. Allison escapes. Laurie goes on to live her life. So I think it was really good. I like that. There's some really cool moody moments. I really love the color play. I love some of the nighttime shots. So that trilogy is just an interesting one. Tonally, each film is a little bit different, but I think it's a cool kind of modern take on Halloween. So we'll see where it goes from here, but this was a really fun October. Thank you all so much for hanging with me through all 13 of these movies. It's crazy that we got to watch them all in order. Thanks for the support for the podcast. More to come, but for now, this is Justin from Screen to Screen, wishing everyone a happy Halloween.